In the first step of this process called purchase goods, we described a lot about the process. In fact, I'm calling this defined the process up here in the header information. Now we are going to identify the major steps, and we're also going to enter these inputs and outputs. The inputs are kind of the trigger, like when does this happen, who triggers it, what exactly comes into the process. And then on the other end, the outputs are the customers and what they receive from the process. So I'm going to go ahead briefly and say that in terms of the inputs, so I've entered that operations shares the current inventory and the part numbers they want ordered. Sales provides the current orders, and I explain it in the form itself, or actually I explain it right here. When you want to add lines on a PC anyway, you hold down the Alt key and press Enter a few times, and it brings you down a couple of lines. So in terms of the inputs, these are the things that you're actually going to need to figure out how much you want to order, right? The part numbers tell you what you want to order, and then the customer orders and lead times tell you how much to order. I'm sure you have a formula that you're using. It might be in your head. If you need to put it on paper, I encourage you to do that. So then on the output ends, as we had mentioned up above, the operations group receives materials for their kit. So the operations is our customer, and the product, service, or information that they receive is the materials for kits. Now I'm going to go back and look at the different major steps in this process, breaking it down. And as a tip, because I am not actually doing purchasing goods in my job, I went out online and I said, hey, give me a sample process for purchasing. And the first thing they suggested was identify items needed. Of course, we create the purchase form. And then it occurred to me, you need to be thinking, if you're the owner or a leader, what are you doing that needs to be translated when somebody else is doing the process? For example, you own the checkbook, perhaps, so you can just create and submit all day, but when somebody else is carrying out this process for you, you might want them to request approval, right? You're not just giving them an open checkbook. The next step would be submit the PO to the vendor, and then one of my favorites when it comes to purchasing, I get frustrated when people who order think that their job is done, when in reality, they haven't provided those kits, the materials for kits, until they've affirmed that everything came in. And then finally pay the invoice, because really you haven't necessarily purchased if you haven't paid.